Through this video, we will try to perform a digital simulation of a field trip in southeastern Spain to explain a post-fire experiment we made in 2003. Our main goal was to detect the most effective post-fire treatments for restoring the vegetation and reducing fire risk. Our trip started in the municipality of Teresa de Cofrentes. This village is located in southeastern Spain, specifically in Valencia region. It is a traditional Mediterranean village where the main economic activity is agriculture. Olive and almond trees are part of the landscape. Beekeeping and honey production is also a source of wealth for this area. The landscape has been exploited and modified by the human hand for millennia. Presently, it is a mosaic of agricultural fields and forested areas. The climate is typical Mediterranean, with a mean annual temperature around 13 Celsius degrees and mean annual rainfall above 450 millimeters. This allows the formation of permanent and intermediate water sources. However, in the past half-century, drastic socio-economical changes associated with the industrialization of the country have led to the abandonment of large areas that were used for agriculture, especially marginal areas in far places and difficult to exploit. This abandonment has led to an increase of forested areas by natural colonization. This, in turn, has increased fire risk through an increase in fuel load as well as fuel continuity. In fact, a huge forest fire affected this area in 1979. It is one of the largest forest fires ever in the Mediterranean basin, and it burned more than 30,000 hectares. First successional stage of forest vegetation is dominated by species that quickly colonize abandoned fields and regenerate by seed after disturbances. This group includes mainly pine forests, composed of Pinus halepensis and Pinus pinaster, while the understory is dominated by shrubs, such as rosemary, Rosmarinus officinalis, the Mediterranean gorse, Ulex parviflorus, and the Kermes oak, Quercus coccifera. Although the first stage is quite common, species that belong to the second stage are scarce. These species regenerate after disturbances by means of resprouting, and their seeds are dispersed by birds. As they were removed when the landscape was transformed into a crop field, they are now difficult to detect. This refers to species such as the oak Quercus ilex and shrubs like Pistachia lentiscus, Rhamnus alaternus, and Juniperus oxycedrus. When this vegetation is burned by wildfire, a dense shrubland dominated by the Mediterranean gorse Ulex parviflorus typically appears in the first 2 decades after fire. This species has a persistent soil seed bank, with seed having a physical dormancy broken by fire temperatures or daily soil temperature fluctuations in summer. This fact promotes a flash of germination the following autumn after fire, under wet soil conditions. This dense shrubland, in addition, is highly flammable because this species accumulates high loads of fine dead biomass in its structure. For this reason, it is important to create effective post-fire management strategies to reduce the appearance of dense flammable shrublands and enhance resprouting species. We have now arrived in the experimental area. We will leave the car here and continue by walking for a few minutes until the plots. In 2003, we performed an experiment to ascertain the best management options for restoring these burned Mediterranean forests while also reducing fire risk. In dense shrublands dominated by gorse (Ulex parviflorus), we tested the suitability of combining two management techniques: selective clearing and planting. These treatments were applied 24 years after fire, when the shrublands had become senescent. Four neighboring plots of approximately 1,000 square meters were selected to apply the treatments. These consisted of a complete factorial design of different techniques: clearing, planting, clearing and planting, and control plot. Clearing consisted in removing the gorse land with a scrub clearing machine equipped with a chain drive. Vegetation was chopped by the machine and left on the soil as mulch. When possible, pine individuals and rooting shrubs were preserved. Planting consisted in opening holes mechanically using a tractor equipped with a backhoe. We planted 1-year-old seedlings of holm oak (Quercus ilex), Italian buckthorn (Rhamnus alaternus), and mastic tree (Pistacia lentiscus). All three are native, woody respiratory species and are characteristic of mature stages with low standing dead fuel accumulation. In this treatment, seedlings were planted within uncleared gorseland with minimal disturbances to the vegetation structure. To this end, we cleared several 2-meter wide bands for the seedlings and left in between untreated 5-meter wide strips of shrubland. This was performed to allow operators to work and plant without disturbing the shrublands. For the clearing and planting treatment, planting was performed after clearing to facilitate operators' work. Within each plot, seedlings of Quercus ilex, Pistacia lentiscus, and Rhamnus alaternus were planted in a 1:1:1 ratio and an interspersed distribution. Planting density was very high, approximately 4,000 individuals per hectare. So, what are the results 19 years after the treatments? We shall try to make an evaluation in terms of 3 different attributes: biomass, growth of planted seedlings, and species richness. In terms of total biomass, we found no differences. Values are quite similar. However, the treatments which include clearing leave a lower proportion of dead biomass. In cleared plots, vegetation has recovered in these years, but Ulex parviflorus has not regenerated with the same density as prior to the treatments. This space has been occupied by other species with lower dead biomass accumulation, as for example Rosmarinus officinalis. In the control and uncleared planted treatments, we have a senescent shrubland where dead biomass is still abundant. What about the planted species? Survival was variable depending on species and treatment. For Quercus ilex and Rhamnus alaternus, there was no effective treatment on survival, with values higher than 90% in all treatments. For Pistacia lentiscus, however, seedling survival was lower than for the other species, with clearing improving the survival rate from 31 to 50%.
Diámetro 1 centímetro. Y altura 27.
On the other hand, the growth of planted species was clearly affected by treatments. Species were taller and bigger in the planting treatment, where vegetation was previously removed by clearing. Although the response was variable, we have individuals with a very small growth and others measuring more than 2 meters, the average is significantly higher in the clearing treatments. This effect may be attributed to the removal of possible competition between the establishment shrubland and the planted seedlings. Shrubland clearing was also important to promote species richness. Treatment reduced the initial high density of Ilex parviflorus and Rosmarinus officinalis, which provided open spaces and empty niches to be occupied by other species. It is worth noting that species richness is still increasing 19 years after treatment. Finally, clearing also promoted the natural colonization of resprouting late successional species. Seed-sparing birds display aversion to dense shrublands and prefer more open spaces. Natural recruitment of this kind of resprouting species was significantly higher in the case of clearing treatments. It is worth highlighting the high presence of Rhamnus alternus seedlings. This species was absent in the area before the treatment, but now it is frequently seen naturally colonizing the region, even within the shrubland. In this field trip, we have observed that the combination of clearing cedar species with the plantation of resprouting species can lead to desirable vegetation states in medium and long term. Clearing reduced presence of cedar species, mainly Ilex parviflorus, and inhibited their regeneration. This fact directly induced smaller amounts of dead fine biomass proportions. In addition, the clearing treatment enhanced not only the natural colonization of the resprouting species, but also the growth of the planted individuals by reducing competition. All these positive clearing effects were accompanied by an increase in species richness at the community level. These results are fundamental to the management of Mediterranean ecosystems, where many areas of shrublands growing on old fields are in state of arrested succession.